Happy Friday, everybody. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Therapeutic Wisdom from the AKASH, and welcome to Awoken TV. If this is the first time you guys are joining us, please say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. In fact, let us know anyway. Even if you've been here before, I would love to say hello, make sure my comments are working. So please let me know if you're here. If you guys have not visited Awoken TV yet, I really encourage you to do so. Awoken TV is like a spiritual and metaphysical Netflix. And it also has a mystery school. So if you go to www.awoken.tv, you can find courses, you can find a community of light workers and conscious filmmakers, you can find a lot of other films and shows that are airing to really offer you all of the support and encouragement that you need on the spiritual path, on your healing path. My name is Laura Mazzotta, and I am the Akashic therapist, which basically means that I've been a therapist for almost 20 years, and that I've transitioned over into integrating a lot of energetic and spiritual techniques into my practice based on my own healing journey, my own physical healing journey when I got sick about 4 years ago. So I am here to scream the Akashic records to the world because they've completely changed my life. And I come here live every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific, I believe. And I'm offering you guys therapeutic wisdom from the Akash. So this is really an opportunity to explore those areas of mental health that are coming up in our lives and getting divine perspective on it, right? And getting higher perspective on these issues that unfold in our lives. So today we're going to talk about PTSD. But before we do that, I would love it if you guys could share this out to anyone who you feel has experienced trauma in their lives or has been diagnosed with PTSD in the past. And just share this out so that we can help support others. I'm going to share it myself right now. Just take a quick moment to do that if you don't mind. And please let me know if you have any questions or things that are rising in your lives about trauma or about mental health in general, and I'm happy to share. Okay, I'm just going to share out to one more space, and then we can get going. Okay. So, PTSD. How do we even get these terms, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder is what this refers to. And we get these from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, DSM-5 for short, from the psychiatric world and the psychiatric arena. So this is a manual that's created. They just created DSM-5 a few years ago. They've come out with a lot of different revisions of it. And they have a huge panel of psychiatrists and mental health providers who sit down and discuss, based on their experiences with patients and the neuroscience behind it, you know, the different diagnoses that apply based on certain symptoms that you're presenting. So let me know if any of you have ever experienced any symptoms of PTSD or know anybody who has. And I'm going to share those symptoms with you now because I would love to be able to support you in this area. So PTSD, it falls under the umbrella of anxiety disorders. And, you know, in DSM-5, they really separated it from the other anxiety disorders because they didn't want people with PTSD to feel like they were just lumped into that. They almost wanted them to feel special in a way, I think, because they have been through something traumatic. But what is trauma, right? Trauma is something that is defined differently by everybody. So I could say that something that's traumatic for me, like a tree falling on my house or a tree falling on my car, is traumatic, whereas somebody who could experience sexual abuse or rape, you could say, well, one's trauma and one isn't, but it's all based on your own perspective. And you know what, even taking the ego out of it and our mindsets out of it, it's more than just how we interpret the event. Because the part that I've learned from the Akash is that we have trauma that we've carried down. It can be carried down through at least 3 generations that has been proven through scientific research, okay? So if we have ancestors who have experienced trauma, if we have experienced trauma in past lives, or in previous versions of ourselves, we are going to respond differently when we have, maybe I respond differently than somebody who's standing next to me if we have the same trigger, because I've had a much different ancestral experience or past life experience than the other person. Okay, so it's not just, oh, I'm weak because I'm responding to something that happens in my world very differently than the person next to me. And I think a lot of people can be down on themselves and self-critical at that point because they feel like, why can't I handle this, right? And you can say, oh, well, it runs through your blood, it runs through your DNA. Yeah, I mean, that can be part of it. That's surely been proven. But what I think is more interesting is the fact that energetically we carry these things down. So even if it's not within our ancestral line of people who have incarnated on this earth and they've physically been walking on this planet, and then they birthed a new generation, and they birthed a new generation, and then they birthed a new generation, and this is carried through the bloodlines, okay? Even if that isn't in place, they've shown that people who have never even met before or haven't even been in the same family, but maybe had a shared community at some point, and they experienced the Holocaust, or they experienced other significant global traumatic events, the children who are born to generations following, even in the same community, even if they're not following the same bloodline, experience the same kind of PTSD symptoms as those people who experience those global traumatic events, without knowing the people, without knowing the stories, before they even had conscious awareness of it. So the research is just staggering and really supports the fact that there is this energetic blueprint of trauma that gets carried down, okay? So how does PTSD present? So when it presents, in whatever way that we feel we've experienced a trauma, our minds and bodies will tell us, okay, whether it is considered traumatic to our energetic body, to our physical body, to our emotional body. Even if consciously we think, oh, that wasn't traumatic, no big deal, or I don't perceive that as traumatic, okay? So what happens is we end up being hypervigilant. That's one of the primary symptoms of PTSD. And hypervigilance is basically like feeling jumpy, okay? That the littlest thing sets you off, that you go from 0 to 100 like that. That you're always kind of looking over your shoulder like, oh, okay, like not feeling safe. PTSD, any kind of trauma, really rocks your sense of safety and security, okay? So what you really need to do, the first thing you need to do when you're handling trauma is to establish a sense of safety and security. So it's very productive at that time to be able to find safety and security within your environment. So either in the home that you're in, with the people that you're spending time with, and the scenarios that you set up in your life. So that's step one, right? Establish safety before you start working on any kind of trauma work. And then once you do that, you can dive in at a cognitive level if you'd like. But the idea is that we're going to continue to chip away at these layers. We're going to attack the cognitive level. Then we're going to go for the emotional level. Then we're going to go for the energetic level, okay? Because trauma definitely needs to be processed in layers because it gets stored in our bodies at a cellular level, okay? When we experience trauma, as you all know, we have very magnificent brains that have the ability to create memories for the experiences that we have in our lives. So I'm just going to check here really quickly because I want to make sure that my comments are working. Oh, yeah, see, they're not working. So there you go. I'm glad I checked. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for being here. So I'm just going to keep my phone open and just check over there every once in a while. All right, so these memories of trauma get stored in our bodies. They literally get stored in our cells, okay? And when they get stored, it's not just the memory of the event and the content of the event that gets stored, but it's also the emotion that's tied to that and the energy of that scenario. So when we go in to address trauma and we establish that sense of safety and we start doing the trauma work, what we do is we are intending to rewire the brain, okay? Because we have these neurological pathways that have now been carved with memory 1 associated with emotion 1, okay? And what we want to do is we want to come in there and we want to separate these two. I want to say, okay, I'm not going to lose the memory. I'm going to keep the memory, but I'm going to detach it from the emotional response that's associated with it. Okay, a lot of people with PTSD will avoid certain situations or places because they are considered triggers. And they don't want them to trigger this PTSD response, which could be a panic attack. It could be intense rage and anger. It could be just irritability, confusion, feeling lost. Okay, feeling unsafe for sure. So what we want to do is separate the memory from the emotion. So there's a couple different ways we can do this. I mean, in the therapy world, we approach this often with TFCBT, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a cognitive therapeutic technique, and it's wonderful. It's very effective, but I personally believe it only touches one layer. In fact, I know it only touches one layer because I've done this with many, many patients over the years, along with EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And these are wonderful ways to remap the brain, but the brain is physical. Our emotions are part of our physical manifestation. So we need to get deeper than that, right? We need to go to the energetic layer underneath that because we can remap that, but then it's going to show up somewhere else energetically because the energetic piece is then just going to shift. Their neurology is going to change, but then the energy that surrounds that is then going to shift just to somewhere else in our physical bodies. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions so far. I'm just going to take a quick look over here. And let me know if you have experienced any level of trauma or PTSD or know anyone who has and what symptoms have been the most concerning for them. One of the most concerning symptoms for people with PTSD is nightmares, and particularly re-experiencing nightmares. So what happens is we run into a trigger, say it's a sound, say it's a person, a location that activates this memory for us. And when this memory is activated, just like when we think of anything, like, oh, I was so happy when I got my first dog, or I was so happy when I had my first child, or something. And those feelings of nostalgia, those feelings of warmth, of love, come up for you when you think of that memory. So here in PTSD, when you get triggered, hey, Lori, thanks for being here. When you get triggered, you're also going to, along with the memory of the event, have that emotion come up for you. So that gets reactivated, and then it feels like you're re-experiencing the event because that cellular memory is activated and it feels like you're there. And so that fight or flight comes in, that protective mechanism from the ego, and we feel like we need to defend ourselves or protect ourselves, okay? So one of the ways that you guys can start remapping on your own is by when you get triggered, or intentionally go to this place or connect with this person that you feel is a trigger for you. And what you're going to do is, and you actually don't have to go to it. You can just imagine it. We call that imaginal exposure, okay? And there's certain steps to doing this. So if you're really, really traumatized, you're having a lot of really significant traumatic symptoms, then you don't want to just go over and, go into the situation or talk to somebody. Again, we need to establish safety first, okay? So if you feel safe in your own home, or you feel safe in your bed or with a friend or something like that, then do that. And then imagine yourself approaching this person or this scenario that you feel like is a trigger for you. And at the same time that you do that, you can do some tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique. I don't know how many of you have worked with tapping, but tapping is a wonderful way to start remapping and rewiring our energy system in addition to our neurological system. So it's a very, very effective tool that is really effective across the board. I have people with florid symptoms, psychosis, OCD, PTSD that have healed entirely from using tapping. And you can find, you can go to my website and find tapping videos. You can also go to Brad Yates, Y-A-T-E-S. He has a YouTube channel with a ton of free tapping videos where you can pretty much Google or search on his YouTube channel tapping for anything that is going on in your life, and he has a video for it, and he's wonderful. He's just a nice, tender, kind man. So that's a good opportunity for you to be able to heal on your own and start this process, okay? Another way is anytime we do something new, we are introducing this new stimulus to the brain, and the brain puts its energy towards that because it's got to focus more to be able to create a new pathway. So if you pull up a memory and there's a certain belief attached to it, because that's the second thing that I've learned about PTSD from the AKASH, is that it's not just that we have memories of the event, but we also have beliefs about the event that get created, and beliefs about life and our world and the safety of our world and ourselves that get created when this trauma is encoded. Okay. And so we also need to shift the belief systems, and tapping is a wonderful way to do that. But the second way that you can start remapping is to create a new belief. Okay. One of the books that I really like for creating new beliefs is called Love Yourself, Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And that's a workbook. It's a companion guide to You Can Heal Your Life, which is the book that she wrote. And you don't have to read You Can Heal Your Life. It's a great resource. I refer to it all the time because there's a list in the back about all of the issues that can present physically and emotionally for us and what the belief systems are that are associated with that. So she teaches us how to take our outdated or conditioned belief systems and turn them into something that works for us, something that we choose, and something that serves who we want to be going forward. So it's great to access this workbook or just, use this mentality of creating a new belief system or an affirmation that aligns with who you want to become. Even if you're not fully there yet, even if you don't fully believe in the fact that you're going to get there. Okay, what this does is it's an exercise in faith for yourself and saying, no, I trust that I will eventually get there. Okay, and you're taking action and committing toward that when you choose a new belief system. So what you do is you choose this new belief system and then you write it down, because when we put it in writing, we are shifting the vibration, we're increasing the vibration. When we speak it out loud, we're heightening our vibration even more, and we're calling it more into our reality. And especially if we do this with mirror work and we look into the mirror, into our eyes. You can even do this as a selfie on your phone and speak it out loud to ourselves so that we're internalizing this belief. But when you're writing it down, I encourage you to either write with your opposite hand, because that's creating a new pathway. It's something new that your brain has to put focus on, or do a new task, or draw something that you haven't drawn before with your non-dominant hand. Okay, so that's something that I encourage you to practice for at least 21 days. And it's likely going to take longer than that if you have a really deep-seated trauma. And obviously, if it's a deep-seated trauma, this simple technique is not going to solve everything, right? We also have forgiveness work to do and inner child work to do and all that lovely stuff that's incorporated. But it's a nice place to begin. And just beginning and making a commitment to ourselves by taking on practices like these shows ourselves that we feel we are deserving and we are worthy. And a lot of times our feeling of deserving and worthy can get rocked with trauma. And that's the third thing that comes up, that has come through the AKASH, that has been really insightful and helpful with working with PTSD, which is, it's not just that we have belief systems that can be created when we experience a traumatic event, but we also have previous belief systems that existed before the traumatic event. If the traumatic event validates our old, conditioned, outdated belief systems, then we're really rooting that trauma in even deeper into our beliefs. Because what we're doing is we're saying, yeah, you're right, you're not safe. This experience that you just had validates that that belief system was accurate. You need to stay on watch. So if you find that, all right, I'm working with these beliefs around this traumatic event, and I've been doing it for 6 months, and it hasn't really been shifting much, then you want to look even deeper at the beliefs that existed prior to the trauma happening. Did you have issues of not feeling good enough? Did you have issues of not feeling worthy? His name is Brad Yates. I'm going to type it in for you. Since the comments aren't working on my computer, I'm just going to type it in for you. Sherry, thanks for asking. Okay, so I think what happens a lot of the time, well, I know what happens a lot of the time, is that people end up saying, this trauma ruined my life. And they stay in victim mentality about it. And it's good to acknowledge the trauma and to call it forward in our experience so that we can process it at a deeper level and move beyond it. Transform that energy into something else. Create from it. Allow it to be a lesson for us, an opportunity to reflect back to, okay, what is the reason that I'm here on this planet? What is my purpose here? How does this fuel my purpose to allow me to serve other people? Is it actually protective for me, no matter how traumatic it was? And trust me, I have had my share of trauma in my life, my friends. So I am not immune to this. And I have embraced it all. Does that mean there aren't days that I don't get frustrated from time to time? Yeah, I'm a human being, of course. But it doesn't have that hypervigilant, nightmare re-experiencing kind of vibe, that jumpy, paranoid, looking over my shoulder kind of vibe. Sherry says, I believe my son has it from something that happened a couple of years ago. Yeah, the nightmares are one of the most common symptoms. And we can control our nightmares through lucid dreaming techniques. I used to do this when I was a kid and didn't even know about it. Like I didn't even know it was called lucid dreaming. But I used to have a dream, and then I would wake up and I'd be totally freaked out. And then I would say, oh, I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to change the ending, or I'm going to shift the dream. And I would literally just, I would close my eyes, would fall back asleep. I wasn't awake. But the dream was clear enough that I was able to set an intention and shift the outcome of my dream. And I know now that this is called lucid dreaming, and these are techniques that you can use to shift your dream state. And you know, it's so funny because especially when we're dealing with any kind of psychotic symptoms, or when we're dealing with nightmares, we want to run and hide because we feel unsafe, we feel threatened. Right? Same kind of feeling that we have with PTSD symptoms, except that it's all the time, you know, in their everyday life, people with PTSD. So what you want to do is you want to run and hide. But what's funny is that when you actually turn and face it, whether it's the villain in the nightmare, right, or whether it is the trigger that comes up for PTSD, again, establish a sense of safety first. But when we turn toward it, or we turn towards these psychotic symptoms, like the visions that we're getting, if we're getting visual hallucinations, or the auditory hallucinations that are coming in, and we're hearing things that other people say aren't there. When we turn toward them and we ask, we get curious about them. We get so much information about our path. We get so much information about the lessons we can learn and how this can really illuminate us and really get to a deeper and more intimate understanding of ourselves. And it also helps to soften this target of our intense fear or intense rage or what have you. Because we're able to turn toward it and see it for what it is and say, let me learn more about you. Let me gather more information now that I am safe. Now that I'm safely held, either in this relationship of this person who's helping me or in my life. And with the perspective that I have now that I'm outside of this experience. So let me know what questions are coming up for you guys. I just want to check my notes here and see if there's anything else I wanted to share about PTSD. Yeah, because what you want to do is when you, like I was talking about mirror work earlier, so when you're speaking about your new belief system that you've created into the mirror, face to face, looking in your eyes, it's important to also feel into it. You know, like if I look in my eyes and I say, I love you. And if I look in my eyes and say, I love you, you can feel the difference, right? So really feel into that when you say I love you to your children, or where you say I love you to, you know, a loved one that you haven't seen in a while, you really feel it. You can feel it in every aspect of your being. Do the same for yourself, because when you're doing that, you're also mapping a new emotion that's associated with a new belief system. That's associated with the memory that you used to deem as traumatic. You know, some people would argue that trauma doesn't even exist. That is just a word and a label that we put on things, and that it is magnifying the event too much, right? Because it is what it is. Things unfold in our lives, good, bad, or indifferent, however we choose to label them. And our greatest healing is being able to accept and enfold all of that into our wholeness. And to say thank you. I appreciate this. I appreciate this enormously intense cue from the universe, because that's what it is. It's an enormously intense cue. Like one of my biggest traumatic events, I have many, but one of my biggest ones was when I got sepsis 4 years ago. I was pissed about that for a while. I was in victim mentality for a while on that one. But I see very clearly now, and have for a few years, how critical it was for that to occur in my life. Not for me to survive or for me to function, but to feel amazing, because I was stuck in a certain pattern, right? I had a certain mindset, I had a certain box and a certain vision. And I've always been a very outside of the box thinker for the most part, but again, outside of the box thinker, that's in my brain, right? We want to connect to more than just our egos. And what I needed was a huge wake up call, a serious kick in the butt. For me to awaken to the capacity that I have energetically, the power that I have to be able to create my own life and to shift and change others as well by heightening my vibration. So please feel free to reach out to me privately if you have issues that have arisen around trauma or around PTSD that you feel uncomfortable sharing publicly. I'm happy to receive that for you, to hold space for you, and offer suggestions as to what can help you move forward on your path. But try the tapping, try the non-dominant hand or new experience technique while you're calling in a new belief and a new feeling associated with it. And let me know how you do with it. The most important thing, whether you choose one of these techniques or you choose something else, is to focus on consistent action and self-care towards yourself and your own well-being. It could be that you choose to have celery juice every morning. It could be that you choose to meditate 5 minutes a day. But that act of consistency, what that does is it tells your mind and body and energy, I am a reliable source for myself. I am a reliable foundation for myself. I can find safety within. And when you're consistent with giving to yourself, your body then gets used to, oh, I can come to expect this. I can rely on her. I can rely on him. I can rely on them. Because this person keeps showing up. You're very welcome, Sherry. Thanks for watching. Okay, so that's how we become our own foundation. Yes, when we do this work, we want to establish a sense of safety in our human world, because that's how we learn a lot of the time, with our 5 senses. So definitely establish that. But while you have that in place, do this other work, okay? Because that's what helps you then solidify yourself as your own foundation, okay? And it's not going to go away overnight, guys. Give it time. Be patient with yourselves. Know and trust and hope that you can find that safe and secure foundation within you. I promise you, you can do it. I went to therapy on and off most of my life, and it was productive for me. But being able to implement this work as an energetic level has really opened it up so much more for me, empowered me a lot more. But it can take a little time. So just don't lose that hope and that confidence. Because for me, I said, I'm always just going to be an anxious person. That's just who I am, right? That's who I am. And what I wasn't conscious of or aware of at the time is that that was a cop-out. That was an excuse. It was an opportunity for me to avoid the deeper work. And honestly, I didn't necessarily know how until I found the energetic community. Because I had used all the techniques and tools in the therapeutic world. I'm very intuitive. I always have been. But I needed to learn a new way. And that's what I encourage you to do, is to be open to learning a new way so that you do not lose that hope and confidence in your ability to move beyond this. And if you'd like any support in that, please feel free to reach out. You can find me at my website, www.theakashictherapist.com, and I will put that link in the comments. I have a course coming up starting next week, August 12th, and it's called Ascend. So I'm going to put the link for that in the comments as well, and you can just check out the details of that program. We're going to be tapping into wisdom from ancestors that, at a soul level, like soul level ancestors, souls that have been connected to us in the past, that may or may not have incarnated on this earth, and receive their wisdom and perspective regarding what's going on in this planet right now, not just globally and collectively, but individually as well. And allow them to offer suggestions and impact that we can integrate into our lives to shift our path, to align with our purpose, not just individually, but collectively. This is how we change the kinds of things that have been unfolding on this earth, the chaos that has been unfolding on this earth, the trauma that has been unfolding on this earth. It starts with us, with taking responsibility for managing our own vibration and knowing and trusting that expands. That's a ripple effect, expands outwards. And the more of us that do this work, the more quickly we change, the more effectively we change, the more we change with ease, and we collaborate. We come back together to that level of simplicity that used to exist eons ago, of all of us being so collaborative and reliant on one another and helping lift each other up. So I'll put those links in the comments. You can also join my free Facebook group, Room for Healing. And I also have one for mental health professionals called Integrating Energy and Therapy, I think. I'll put the link in the comments. I can't remember the exact name. But thank you so much for joining me, whether you're here live or on the replay. Please feel free to tag me in any comments if you guys have questions so that I make sure to get back to them. And I will be here live every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. Pacific. So please make sure to tune in and let me know if there's other therapeutic or mental health issues that are coming up for you that you'd like to discuss from a divine perspective. Have a wonderful day and a great week ahead. Take care.